Recording in progress.
Okay. In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission will meet on Monday, July 9th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in Town Hall Meeting Room 124, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in person at 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass, or by remote connection provided. Please note that the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated. Technical problems interrupt the remote connection. I need a motion to open the meeting.
Paul Cole, open the meeting.
Second.
Peter Cook in a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. First up, 13 Stop River Road, Notice of Intent DP 240076. I need a motion to open the meeting, public hearing.
Peter Cook in, so moved.
Also, my second.
Okay. And need a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right.
Evening, everyone. Russ Waldron here for 13 Stop River Road. So this is an undeveloped lot, and the owner is proposing to build a 4-bedroom home with a 2-car garage, Title V septic system, deck, stairs, and 2 retaining walls. One 6-foot-high wall with a railing along the side and the back, and then a shorter lower wall here coming off the corner of the house. Whoop, did I do something?
No, I did. Sorry. Oh, or not. Sorry. Just a minute.
The house would be, served by, I believe, everything, all the utilities are underground, I believe.
That better? How far down do you want me to go?
No, that's good. That's fine, yeah. The rest of it is just all forest, woods going down slope. It's a fairly steep lot, so they had to keep the house and septic up near the road because the back part of the property falls away pretty quickly down to the wetlands. And that is it, although I'm not seeing the roof infiltrator unit, so that might not have gotten on the plan, but I can correct that easy enough. And that's it. Questions?
Is there, Caitlin, do you want to say anything on this?
Yeah, I can share some of my comments on this. So as being said, this is a pretty steep site here. Where the proposed septic is located, they're kind of flat with the roadway, and then the area, slopes pretty steeply down to the wetlands. There's definitely a high chance of potential construction-related impacts with this, considering how steep the site is. Another comment I had is just that the proposed limit of work is essentially following the 50-foot no disturb boundary for most of the development. In some locations, the retaining wall, which looks like to be about 10 feet tall, is essentially on top of that 50-foot no disturb boundary, leading me to believe it's pretty improbable that that retaining wall could be reconstructed without having to go beyond that into that 50-foot no disturb buffer zone. Mass DEP did issue a file number for this project with one comment about the wetlands being flagged in January of this year. And their recommendation would be that the
Flooded.
wetland boundary be confirmed in the field, which I think is important here considering how close the work is to the wetlands, and also in the local bylaw, there is a provision that wetlands should be flagged during a certain portion of the year. These were flagged outside of that time period, so field verification is definitely really important here.
So are you recommending we have a third-party review the NOI?
Yes, I think having a third-party consultant at a minimum do a field verification of the wetland resource area boundaries, and also a review of the 50-foot no disturb zone where that retaining wall will be going, to assess whether or not there might be any impacts. Say, for example, there are, several mature trees right where that retaining wall is located. Those would likely have to come down during construction, or maybe their roots may be impacted by the wall being so close. At a minimum, field verification of the boundary and the 50-foot no disturb buffer zone, and then along with that, review of the site evaluation and wetland delineation report.
Do you feel like this project could be accomplished with mitigations that prevent some of the things? I mean, assuming the reflagging doesn't put it in the middle of the wetlands. If this project as is, would there be sufficient mitigation you could see that would prevent some of the inevitable, consequences?
Yeah, I think, as I was saying earlier, the potential for there to be impacts during the construction phase are higher on a site like this where it's really steep and, more difficult, but there definitely are mitigation measures that can be put into place. Making sure the erosion control barrier is adequate, potentially even having, 2 rows of erosion control barrier, having things like a stabilized construction entrance, a construction phasing plan. There's certainly a lot of, mitigation measures that can help mitigate any potential impacts.
Is it a site that would require them to readily remove material as they were going along? Or should we address that in the NOI?
I think that would be the case.
I believe, so like I was saying, the area where the proposed leaching field is, there is room there for equipment and storage of materials.
Okay. But that would include what they do for erosion control to help reduce the mitigation of that soil that they store.
Right. I mean, again, I think having some sort of, construction phasing plan might be important here. I would assume the retaining wall would be one of the first things that's constructed to really, you'd have to construct that before backfilling the site. But having those details submitted for the commission to review is definitely a good idea.
Caitlin, have you actually visited this site?
I viewed it from the roadway. It was too steep for me to go down at the time.
No, of course. The only question I have, Russ, is regards to the height of the wall. You say that's going to be a 6-foot retaining wall? It's going to require quite a pad to stabilize it, I would assume.
Is this mic still on? It went red.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, 6-foot wall with a railing on top per code. And I believe it's I want to say it's going to be a block style wall. and they'll put whatever footing is required.
Yeah, it's going
Yeah.
to be below frost, so 4 feet, it's quite a substantial footing for a white to hold the weight. I assume they're going to backfill it as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I'm not a wall engineer, so
Oh.
I leave that up to the people who are.
Of course, of course.
There is a wall section detail on the plan. If
Yeah.
I'm reading that detail correctly, it looks like they're proposing a compacted gravel pad. That's 6 feet in diameter.
That would all have to go before the building inspector, correct?
Oh, I'm sure of it, yeah.
Right. Because that's
Yeah.
structural, and obviously, I'm assuming the green is the wetlands by this
Yep,
view?
correct.
Right.
That's the
So it's any approximation from the actual wetlands to the base of that wall? What do you make that, Russ, approximate footage? 30,
Distance-wise,
40, sure.
what's the
Shy
scale?
of
I think
50.
this is what, a 1 in 10 scale, 1 in 20? I'm just trying to remember from the last time I was out there, I did a couple data plots down the lower section. I gotta say, probably like,
30 feet.
well, it's 50 feet. Actually, I don't even have to guess because it's right along the 50-foot buffer zone. So it'll be 50 feet is the closest point. 50 feet plus the width of the erosion control as it's shown.
Right. As the water level at that time, back in January, was it?
I ran the line out on soil, so it's as good as it's going to get.
Caitlin, you were actually requiring them to do a new water level due to the approximation of time that's passed? Is that it? You were recommending?
So my recommendation would to have someone verify those flags in the field now that we're in the growing season and there might be ground vegetation that is present now but wasn't obviously present in January
Clearly. Yep.
due to the time of year. And then that's based on a requirement of the bylaw as well as supported by the comments from Mass DP.
Okay.
How does it sound so far?
All good?
No issues with any of the, okay,
No. I'll check with the lane in case I missed something.
okay. Is there anybody here from the audience for 13 Stop River Road?
I'm the builder, so.
You want to say something, or?
No, I'm fine. Let's just-
Okay, just want to make sure.
We're gonna do a gravel and.
If you could, just state your name and grab a microphone.
My name's,
It's on.
Pretty much.
John?
Just have to close.
You have
my
to-
name's Jim Leonard. I'm with Custom Nest Builders, and, yeah, we are gonna do get it approved by the building department, the wall, whatever we decide to do. It's gonna be either be a smaller block or a bigger block, landscape. Depending on height, there's different requirements for each block.
Make sure the building department's aware of it, yeah.
Surely.
Obviously, I have no problems with anything else that's been discussed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Is there anyone in the audience, Elaine, for this?
Somebody from Custom Nest Builders, but,
I mean, in Zoom?
no.
No?
I mean,
Okay.
there's somebody from there online as well, other than that.
So, to recap, Caitlin, you think we should have a third party review the things that we talked about today?
Yes, so at a minimum, I recommend the commission have a third-party peer review that includes a site inspection, an evaluation of the flagged wetland resource area boundary. The site inspection should include evaluation of the 50-foot no disturb buffer zone, and a review of the site evaluation and wetland delineation report that was submitted as part of the NOI application.
So what I need is a motion for a third-party review to cover what Caitlin has specified.
Adam Zucker recommends we have a third-party peer review of the NOI application and the wetlands reflagged and all the specifications enumerated by Caitlin.
Paul
a second?
Close, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And so what I'd like is, we now need a motion to carry the meeting to August 13th, or 13 Stop River Road.
Peter Coogan, so moved.
Paul Close, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All
That's
right,
gonna be a
carries.
Seven
So
o'clock?
we'll put them on at, 7:01 again? So if you have any questions or concerns, just contact the office.
Yep, not a
Be able
problem.
to help guide you to who's,
Yeah, I've
be able to help you.
been through it many times, so I'm
Yep.
good.
So we'll let you know. If you have any questions how the peer review's coming, you talk to Elaine and then coordinate whatever efforts we need so your project moves forward.
Sure thing, absolutely.
Okay. The next we have is 40 Lakeshore Drive, Notice of Intent, DEP 240-0675. I would request a motion to open this public hearing.
Bellstone, I make a motion that we open the public hearing for 40 Lakeshore Drive, NOI for DEP number 240-0675.
Have a second?
Paul Close, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, do we have somebody here for 40 Lakeshore Drive?
Evening again, Russ Waldron for 40 Lakeshore Drive. So this project is a Title V septic repair and replacing a concrete footing under the I believe the right rear corner of the house. And the septic system is going to go on the left side. The existing system is in front. That will get decommissioned. I believe the tank is getting removed. And it is on the shore, Populatic Pond, down there. System profile. Here it is. Excellent. Okay, so this new system is here. It'll be a 500-gallon tank, gravity fed. Like I said, the existing tank and everything else is out front, and that's going to go away. And the concrete footing, that was kind of added sort of after the fact. I just assume it's deteriorated to the point that they feel like they need to yank it out and pour a new one under that corner of the house. It's an old house, ranch, typical of what was built down in Populatic back in the day. And I believe the house is just getting renovated as is. They're not.
Are you replacing it where it is now, or are you moving it to a different spot?
No, the house is staying exactly like it is. They're just renovating it.
The concrete footing is for the house itself, nothing to do with the septic.
No. No.
Sorry about that, Russ. I should have put the plan on separate.
There should be photos of the property in the meeting folder. that showed the rear of that house. I agree with Russ, it's definitely deteriorated. It needs some improvement there.
Yeah, so I think this is the part of the house that's of concern as far as the footing goes. And so the bank of the pond is flagged here. 50-foot buffer goes here, down slope of the, whoops.
All right.
Oh, there it is. That's a good photo.
Want to see this? Okay.
So the new septic system will go right here. This is all in here. And everything slopes to the pond, as you know, everything does down around Populatic. The existing septic system is over in the front, and the footing is that far corner. Questions?
Caitlin, do you see anything that makes this much more of a formality, much more than a formality? Is there anything other than?
No, I didn't find any issues with this application. Pretty typical septic repair application that the board has seen a number of times. They are outside the 50-foot no disturb, but even so, the yard has been historically altered right up to the bank. I think my one comment really is just because it does slope down to Populatic Pond. I think a straw wattle, or excuse me, a silt sock and a silt fence should both be used here.
And on this property also, where would you be storing any materials that you had to, like, haul? Are you just going to haul it away right away?
Right away.
Okay. That's what I recommend, especially.
Everything that comes in gets put in place when it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's getting access. I mean, it drops off from Lake Shore Road.
Yeah, that's where we'd be concerned, that anything
Yeah.
stored there, we get some heavy rains, it's going to end up.
Yeah, no, I mean, they can back a truck down the current driveway. Well, actually, it's not a driveway. It's the construction route that everybody's been using, apparently. And if they had to, you know, they could stockpile something briefly, whether it's septic sand or whatever. But no, anything, as it goes, as it gets constructed, it's going to get in place very quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
Russ, you said this is a repair versus a replacement, correct?
Same thing. Yeah.
Not.
Some people call them septic replacements, some call them Title V septic repairs.
So you're gonna pull, it's the old style, or is it the, older style? It's not the.
So I guess it would be, no, it would, oh God, no.
Right.
You know, it's, so it would be a replacement.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
gonna pull a tank, and I'm assuming it's gonna be same amount of gallonage going in as coming out?
That,
What's the bedroom?
you'd have to
What's
check
bedroom?
They're not altering the
I think it's
house.
only a 2-bedroom. I think, I don't know, but, I mean, these are the old cottages that were built down Populatic years and years, decades ago, so.
Well, as you know, the septic's determined by the number of bathrooms, and that was my question. It's
Number of bedrooms, actually.
bedrooms,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
I assume, I mean, you know, the guys at Dunn McKenzie, they know how to do this, and their civil engineer doesn't let anything go out the door without his say-so, so
Dunn's doing it, yeah.
I have
That's-
faith in those guys.
Of course. No, it was just a question I had.
3-bedroom.
Right, there you go. So as far as you know, it's going to be the same. It's not going to be increased. Thanks, Russ.
Is there anyone from the audience here from 40 Lakeshore Drive? Anybody in Zoom? Any members have any further questions? All right, so kind of summarize Caitlin's recommendation. Recommend the commission issue an order of conditions to the project with the following special condition. Erosion controls should consist of a minimum of 12-inch diameter silt sock or silt fencing to be installed at the limit of work. Prior to the start of work, The conservation agent representative of the Conservation Commission shall inspect the erosion control barrier. A minimum 1 week notice would be provided. Does that sound
Yep.
reasonable?
All good.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion. You wanted to have this?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I move the board recommends a commission order an order of conditions for the project at 40 Lake Shore, DEP file 240-0675.
I guess we need to close the public meeting first. I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's quite no, it was, I should have known too.
But thanks,
I move we
Barry.
close the public hearing on 40 Lake Shore. I don't know if I've got it in me again.
Peter Kilgallen, second.
You can't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now I I'm looking to entertain a motion.
Well, I have something to say. I recommend we issue an order of conditions for the project at 40 Lake Shore, DEP 240-0675.
Who's got a second?
And
Peter
second?
Kilgallen, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next is Pine Street. With this one, we're just going to open the meeting and then accept a motion to move the meeting is what we're going to do.
So
then.
next.
Till next month.
Okay.
From what I see, there's not a DEP number yet, Caitlin?
Correct. There was an issue with their state filing fee. So Mass DEP is holding off issuing comments until they get the corrected fee payment. And the applicant is also wishing to continue because they haven't finalized their response to the stormwater peer review that was issued by Beta Group. I believe they're still waiting for comments from other town boards before issuing that response.
Okay. That's fair enough. So I need a motion to open the public hearing for 1 Pine Street.
Make a motion to open the public hearing for 1 Pine Street.
Second?
Peter Kilgallen, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to continue to 7:05 PM on August 13th, 1 Pine Street.
Valstone, I make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 1 Pine Street for 7:05 on August 13th, 2025.
Adam Zucker, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. All right, next on the agenda is a Valley Street culvert. Either Richard or Caitlin.
Sure, yeah, I can describe this. So the commission received a request for emergency certificate from the Norfolk DPW in the last week of June for emergency culvert repair/replacement for a partially failed culvert located underneath Valley Street. And Elaine, if you wouldn't mind, there's a figure in there just showing exactly where this culvert is located. It's located on the northern extent of Valley Street, the opposite side from Pine Street. I think Dedham Street is the connection there. I went out and conducted a site visit on June 26th and found that the road had been, they had put a metal plate over the road where that culvert had partially failed. I noted that the stream was flowing on pretty smoothly on either side. There weren't any backups or impacts to the wetlands or the stream there from that partially failed culvert. Based on my site visit and a review of the regulations and our local bylaw, found that this work would qualify for an emergency certificate. And so a Form 9 was subsequently issued this past Monday, July 7th. So the certificate is valid for 30 days. There were two conditions with this permit. One, that work is not to be conducted when there's inclement weather. And two, that adequate erosion controls are placed along the edge of wetlands while they're doing that repair work in the roadway. Additionally, the emergency work conducted in roadways is an exempt activity under the bylaw. So I did not put a requirement that DPW submit an after the fact filing when work has been completed. That's something the commission has required in the past with their emergency certifications, but considering this is an exempt activity, I don't believe it's necessary in this case.
Okay. Anybody have any questions from the commission? Is there anybody in the audience from Valley Street? Oh, we have someone on Zoom from Valley Street.
That's you, Ricky.
Hi, Betsy. Can you unmute?
Hold on, we're trying to unmute you.
Am I unmuted?
Yep, you're all
You
set.
are.
Listen, I've forgotten how to do these high-powered, high-tech things. Yes, we were away for a week or so, and when we saw the signs at each end of Valley Street, I called DPW, which always gives me very detailed explanations, so I knew that culvert work was going on. Down there, I think that's, yeah, the Stop River that goes, there's been a lot of activity through the years there with things needing to be fixed, and so I'm just glad that the DPW in the town is on it. But this apparently does not qualify for an emergency procedure. Is that correct?
No, it does qualify for
Yeah, that's what I thought you
DP
said.
wetlands emergency certificate.
Oh, good, okay. Well, I mean, common sense tells me I'm very glad the town is on it, and I'm glad that it does qualify, and anything to keep Valley Street in good shape is great, and we appreciate that. So I didn't know anything about it until today.
Hey. So,
Oh,
Thanks for your input.
thank you. So,
thank you.
what we have is, any members have any further questions? No? So, based on what Caitlin has talked about and what's actually transpired and what we're required to do, right now, we're just looking for a motion to ratify the emergency certificate for the Valley Street culvert.
Adam Zucker, so moved.
Second?
Walk a little second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Next, 28 Long Meadow Road. You have somebody from the audience? You want to come up and give us an update? Sure.
Yeah, good evening, folks. You got Chris Bratteroli, I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting on Zoom as well.
Hi, Chris.
I'm happy to give you a little walkthrough of kind of what's happened since your last hearing, as well as where we're at looking forward. If, Elaine, I think you might need to let me share my screen.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, you all set?
Okay. Yep, looks good. All right, so first up, as far as the soil and water testing goes, we had discussed this a little bit more in depth at the last hearing, and we completed that testing about a week after that hearing, you know, with some time to get sample glassware delivered to us and whatnot. I had worked with Caitlin to kind of get the administrative okay on these sampling locations. So we took 2 soil samples, kind of both on this slope here, as well as 2 water samples, one pretty much immediately down gradient of that fill area, and one a little off to the west, because the water generally, you know, not much of a flow going on here, but water would generally drain from east to west here. So this is what we had as far as soil and water testing. Unfortunately, I wish I had better news on this. The lab advertised a 10-day turnaround time to us, which would have been July 3rd, and I still have not received anything. I did follow up with the folks from the lab both Monday and again today, and got no response whatsoever. So I've done what I can on this front, and I apologize I don't have better news in terms of lab results for you. But as soon as those come through, you can be assured that those will get passed along to the commission as soon as possible. After that, we do have a civil engineer and surveyor on board. So survey field work is complete as of a few days ago. They are expecting to have plans ready and prepared to share early next week at the latest. And I think that, I see, Rich, you're still on here, so maybe you can add a little color to this. After the planning board meeting last night, it sounded like it was kind of settled that probably the best we can do here in terms of a pre and post is to use the 2021 state LiDAR contours. And that'll, you know, obviously not perfect. In my experience, though, they are really good. And that will allow us to do a kind of pre and post assessment of what was here a few years ago and what we have actually on the ground today. So that'll be kind of the comparison that we're able to make at the point where we have those plans ready early next week. And then I think we do need to kind of circle the wagons, and hopefully we can make some decisions here this evening on a direction to proceed. But we do need to kind of circle the wagons and make sure that civil plans that are forthcoming are able to adequately address both the commission and the planning board's concerns. So we did submit to you a updated restoration plan, and that is going to look like this here. So this was submitted to you about a week ago, and basically after our discussion at the last hearing, what we are talking about is full removal of all fill from the buffer zone, and the wetland itself, obviously. So this will result in total removal of all the fill material that has been placed at any point down gradient of the 100-foot buffer zone line. That's what we're proposing to you here with this graphic. Obviously, we're still working without the benefit of a survey plan, so it's kind of broad strokes and high level at this point. But the good news is when we say all fill to be removed, we can just excavate until we hit native soils. So in that regard, it's relatively simple. Then beyond that, we are proposing to fully plant both the newly restored BVW area as well as the 0 to 50-foot buffer zone. As we had talked about previously a bit, we do still contemplate work in that 50 to 100-foot buffer zone. So instead of planting things there just to have to cut them down in a year or two or however long, we proposed that, you know, still the fill in this area will be removed, but instead of actually planting it densely with native trees and shrubs, we will achieve temporary, well, I guess sort of medium-term vegetative stabilization there with an annual ryegrass or a similar kind of quick-growing erosion control grass seed. So that is the gist of what we have In terms of fill removal and planting, there's also some stipulations in that plan about, we are showing, let's see, a row of hay bales along that 50-foot line. So this is just, another layer of erosion control about halfway between the wetland and the 100-foot buffer zone line. So that's going to just provide another layer of protection there. Also on the topic of erosion controls, this kind of dashed orange line represents about where the erosion control line is today. It has kind of been progressively expanded, extended, repaired, and when I had exchanged some email with Caitlin a couple of weeks ago, I did include some photos showing that silt fence is properly trenched in now. So in terms of what we have there today for erosion controls, I'm feeling pretty good about it. As we remove more fill material and continue planting, you're going to get more erosion controls installed. So that is the gist of what we have proposed to you today, and we would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Anybody have any questions, comments?
So, do we have to wait till we have the results back?
What's that?
Do we have to wait
Yes,
till we have the
we
results
will.
back? Do we have to wait till we have the results back?
For any, serious decisions.
Tests that we're waiting on, but we've yet to receive. Do we have any idea when those test results would to be in?
Well, they were supposed to be in
They're not here yet.
a week ago, so,
Submitted.
I mean, there's just no telling.
Yeah. They were supposed to be in. They were supposed to be in my email inbox on the 3rd. So I don't have a firm date for you, unfortunately. I have to imagine it's in the next few days, but I don't have a confirmed date on that, unfortunately.
I have a question. Are they going to try to salvage some of those damaged trees, the ones that were semi-trunk buried and ones that are gouged? Are those going to be tried to be salvaged?
Right, yes, exactly. So those trees are, obviously they've seen better days at this point, but they're not going anywhere from here on out.
Caitlin, do you have any comments?
Yes, so I think the revised restoration plan is definitely on the right track as far as the revisions were made. While we're on the topic of the buried pines, I do think that the proposed planting schedule may need to be revised a little bit. The plan showing 12 buried pines, it's likely that some of those won't survive. Also need to consider the amount of pines that were cut down and removed from the site. Looking at the planting schedule that's proposed, I see red maple and red oak there. Generally, the idea is to restore an area to what it was before the alteration. I think maybe adding in some additional trees there, particularly pine trees, might be a good idea. Instead of taking it from a white pine dominated forested buffer zone to essentially an entirely deciduous forested buffer zone. That's one thing for the commission to consider. And then as far as revisions, I do see a better breakdown of impacts to the buffer zone and impacts to BBW, but I'm still not really seeing impacts to the potential vernal pool being addressed in this plan. Land underwater, bank to that potential vernal pool, I think should be outlined and addressed in the restoration plan, especially considering that measures to mitigate those resource areas are being proposed.
Hey, do we have anybody on Zoom for the meeting, Elaine? Anybody in the audience want to say anything?
I have one quick question, whenever.
Sure, if you,
If I may, do we have any idea what the grade difference will be once the fill has been removed? I know it was pretty far up those trees' trunks, so any approximation? Any idea of how much height difference, the grade?
Yeah, I don't have a real number offhand, but if we were to spitball a little bit, you can see soil markings, a good 10 or 12 feet up the trunks of those trees.
That was my...
So I would expect that, obviously there was a slope there to begin with, so that won't be necessarily consistent throughout from the wetland line to the 100-foot buffer zone line, but up to about 12 feet of grade drop there, I would estimate.
Sounds a fair estimate considering how far up the trunk, a couple of pictures that I witnessed, it appeared the soil had gotten. The only question other than that, the second 50 feet that you're proposing would to be hydroseeded, is that it? You're gonna plant
Yeah,
the
so
first 50
we've-
and then hydroseed the second?
Right, so we've allowed a little bit of latitude in there. I think I had written it as, those biodegradable erosion control blankets might be appropriate. At that point, it's kind of contractor preference, I think. But hydroseeding was one of those allowances in that plan, yes. So those are both, I would say those are the two options I would recommend here.
Caitlin, any questions or anything pertaining to the vegetation aspect? Other than what you'd mentioned as far as on the second 50 feet?
Caitlin's muted.
Could she hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I was able to hear you. I think potentially using some sort of fabric might be a good idea, depending on when they're planning, unless there's some sort of water source out there. But it sounds like if this, this plan isn't approved until August, then there might be a time to put a plan in place for how that area will be watered, to make sure any seed mix that's put down takes and provides that erosion control.
Doesn't migrate into the wetlands, right?
So
Right.
are they planning to put down natives, or do they want grass, like a lawn?
So this is kind of the distinction between the inner 50 feet of the buffer zone and the outer 50 feet of the buffer zone. That inner 50 feet and the wetland itself, obviously, are going to get planted with, a native plant palette, shrubs, trees, seed that we all kind of expect and love. The 50 to 100 foot mark, we're proposing to seed that just with a generic grass seed, something that's fast germinating and is able to stabilize a slope kind of on short order for, a medium amount of time. Because we do still want to come to you in the future with a notice of intent for work in that outer 50 to 100 foot buffer zone. So we felt like that would be an appropriate compromise in this situation to obtain a longer term stabilization solution without going in and planting a bunch of trees and shrubs just to cut them down in the medium near future.
I think a good potential compromise there, so as the board was saying, it's not just a generic lawn, would be to use some sort of New England plants or erosion control mix or buffer zone mix. Most of those do have ryegrass in them, which typically ends up being like the dominant grass that grows through, but there, with those seed mixes, there will be some diversity for wildlife while a potential NOI is being put together.
Yeah, I think that should probably be fine. I think there's Caitlin, you might or might not know off the top of your head, there's a New England wetland plants like erosion control mix. Is that kind of something like that what you had in mind?
Yeah, there's
I don't know the species list offhand, but
I know there's an erosion control wet mix that I don't think would work for this 50 to 100 foot, but there are similar mixes that are for more drier sites. There's probably 2 or 3 that would be sufficient here.
Okay.
And I believe many of them can be used like in a hydro seeding method.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I actually just pulled it up. I've got a New England erosion control / restoration mix for dry sites.
Right, yep.
Yeah, we've got some rye, some fescues, some little blue stem, switchgrass, Indian grass, so a little bit more than just a, generic grass mix. I think that's an easy change to make. As far as some of the other things that we've talked about so far tonight, I've got maybe incorporating some more pines in the planting schedule, that erosion control mix. I think for the purposes of, and again, maybe Rich can add some color to this. I think for the purposes of designing stormwater here to get in front of planning board, it's going to be important to know what our proposed cover types are for HydroCAD calculations and that sort of thing. So if the commission is not quite ready to approve this plan tonight, that's okay, but can we get to a place where we can say generally, yes, the below the 50-foot line is going to be naturally planted, and then above the 50-foot line would be grassed in some way. Is that fair enough to say so that we can get the ball rolling on stormwater?
I mean, it's up to the commission. I think that could be reasonable. I mean, if the commission wanted to require more plantings in the future, that's something they could always do. But I think in the interest of moving this along, I think that's something that's reasonable for the commission to consider.
I'd almost want to wait till the tests come back personally. That should be in the next few days. Is that it? He's approximating? Guesstimation,
I hope.
sure. I understand. It's not within your control. I just was wondering if you were able to reach out and speak to anybody to get confirmation. You were not?
I've sent a couple of emails and have not been able to get anybody productive on the phone.
Well, we can...
So I
Go ahead.
just want to add a couple comments in terms of, last evening related to the stormwater permit that they're working towards. It's great we're moving forward and making good progress. I don't know, I'm not really sure you'd be in a position to approve this in August anyway, because the engineers are working to get to the August 12th planning board meeting for the stormwater permit, which would be the one meeting as of it. So I don't know. We want to get it done, obviously, but we're just thinking timeline-wise, I don't know if August you're going to be able to approve this. There's some pieces that are, need to happen. I mean, it could happen. I'm not saying it can't, but just trying to be...
So we're looking at it two months roughly before it could be approved, the plan, essentially.
Yeah, it's more, I'm just, and I want to state that more just to be fair in terms of expectation. I mean, it'd be great if it could be done in August, but, just want to, I don't want to be surprised, wait a minute, this thing should have been done in August, because that would be the first meeting for the board. Planning board.
I have somebody in the audience that wants to speak.
Yeah, if you want to talk,
Yeah.
you can,
No, just say I call the company tomorrow to see the test. Try to push the test.
Yeah,
Right, if
just,
you
we
could do
need it
that.
on record with your name so that,
That's Clever Feijó, the owner of the 28 Long Meadow. This week, probably tomorrow, I can call the company, see if we can get the test solution fast. For he have already, for he don't send yet, I can drive by over there, pick it up, and bring to you guys.
we're doing what we can to try to help you out. We honestly are. we're letting, honestly, bygones be bygones of what's transpired in the last year. I'm happy that Chris and you have come up with a plan, and we're starting to move forward on all of this. But we still have to do due diligence when a member requests something that we asked for before, which was the water and soil samples. And they were delayed in getting, so we're delayed in the answer. According to Richard, even if we did anything today, it's not going to help you with stormwater for, a couple of months, is what Richard's saying?
Yeah, I mean, the first hearing would be the August 12th meeting for the planning board, so, I mean...
So...
I think so. The stormwater is not too much big deal because if I to do the drainage over there and I don't have any paver, nothing. That's all in the groundwater anyway. The stormwater that's.
Unfortunately, we're...
Paver stuff, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we're trying to help you, but if you look at the project also, you're asking us to approve something, but nothing's been really physically done in that area yet. And that's what we're waiting for. So...
The engineering and the...
Yeah.
Yeah, the engineer spent over there a week. He's measuring the whole property. He's going every single day for 1 week straight, 3 guys in there to measure every tree, everything they have in the property over there. He's putting a plan to make sure you guys see everything what's there now.
Well, until he gets a report that we can all, I mean, I feel for you because we all want to push it forward, but what Richard is saying is this is methodical. If we do this right, which we have to do, then it's got to be methodical, and there's nothing we can do to avoid that. It's frustrating, but it's going to take time. It's bureaucracy, but it's what we got,
I got a question perhaps Caitlin can answer. Could they actually start excavating some of that fill now that we're kind of going into the drier part of the season, as long as they don't store it on site?
No, I wouldn't recommend that until there's an approved plan.
Okay.
And I think ultimately, this, whether it's approved in August, September, that's typically the driest time of the year, so it's not a bad time for work to begin, as well as, considerations for any vernal pool species that might still be in that pool there. Typically, they're out of the pool by September.
It's a dormant season for them. Yeah. It's what the looking time.
Yeah,
right?
they start moving back into the woods.
So
I guess the one question, just to circle back, what Chris was asking, is it reasonable to do that approach in terms of the inner 50 and the outer 50 in terms of just building into the stormwater aspect of it?
Right, and I think, as I was saying earlier, I think that's reasonable. The commission, depending on the results of the lab testing or, things that may come up, the commission can always go back and require additional planting. But in the interest of moving this along, I think that's a reasonable request for the commission to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because I do think that would be important in running stormwater calculations here, right, Rich?
Yes.
All right, so I suppose unless we hear otherwise, we'll proceed for now as though that's going to be the case. Is that okay through the chair?
Say again? I didn't quite understand.
We need some direction on what our vegetation cover types are going to be here in order to design a stormwater system. So we were just looking for at least a preliminary okay that for where we stand right now, actually revegetating the inner 50 with native vegetation, and then, providing an erosion control seed mix in the outer 50. We were just looking for at least a preliminary confirmation that that appears okay, and we can begin to design a stormwater system with those land cover types in mind.
It sounded like Caitlin didn't have an objection, and I don't, and you're planning on some work in that area in the future,
Yeah, I think so.
So I don't really hear an objection.
The only thing I would suggest, Chris, is that when you do your stormwater plan, from what I understand, grass vegetation is going to have less stormwater runoff than, if you do trees and bushes. So we're going to make sure that, I think what we talked about, 0 to 50 for shrubs and trees, and then 50 to 100 for stabilizing the soil. But in essence, what we'd have to plan, and everybody else needs to speak on this also, if we do 0 to 50 with brushes and trees, 50 to 100 as it stands when you're done with the mix that Caitlin talked about. And if it does end up getting removed and pushed back and more soil removed, just replace it with that same mix. So then your groundwater calculations are going to be the same. Because you'd be back 50 more feet, but your ground would be covered with the same amount of vegetation.
Understood.
Is that
understood?
Fair enough, I think.
So I think.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Kind of recap would be 0 to 50 trees and bushes, 50 to 100 would be the brush,
an
the
erosion
mix.
control seed mix or something.
Which, I don't know, for me, I think going from the forest to brush to grass is good for whatever's in that area, for insects and, ground cover and stuff. So I think we could work with you on that, but I need everybody else to have to say how they feel. So that, we want to.
Well, obviously with the provision, as Caitlin had mentioned, that if it did need to be altered at a later point, in other words, did require more vegetation other than just the grass, we would have the option to do that. I'm okay with it.
I think kind of, Chris, is what we're looking at too, is if some of the white pines die in transition, that they need to be removed and replaced with a younger tree, that's all. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I think that's easy enough to add into the plan here. I think I had left them out because in my experience, white pine transplanting is a little iffy, but we can add that in, not a problem.
Yeah, we would just trying to keep it, we're not expecting you to replace a 40-foot tree with a 40-foot tree. We're just expecting, another tree in its place of the same species that's out there now. Without, kind of change the canopy as what Caitlin went, by adding deciduous mix into a coniferous forest. That's all.
Right, not a problem.
But to be clear, we're not approving the plan, we're just approving preliminary ground cover so that it can move forward. The ground cover right
now is all we're approving. We're still waiting, for, soil, water, and all that, but the bigger thing is to recover the 0 to 50, and get the soil stabilized before we get winter and then another wet season. Because, as you know, you get a lot of runoff, and that soil does not do well in that area. As we saw, we tried to move it out, it was just totally wet. It's got, the water table's high where that 0 to 50 is, so the important thing, is to right now is to get it stabilized, but also work forward with you so that, you're not planting and then tearing them up and then planting and tearing them up. That doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, it's just a waste of time and money, surely.
Yeah.
I mean.
So
just briefly, if I may, to recap, We're not approving any plans tonight. No soil is moving. No plants are going in the ground yet. We still have a little waiting to do on that. But at least at the end of the day, we're generally okay with that revegetation scheme, however it may land, but generally the breaking it up from 0 to 50, 50 to 100. And then I think in the meantime, as we're waiting on survey plans and eventually civil plans to come through, that'll allow us to speak about this with a little bit more specificity and granularity. So those will be coming survey should be in the next few days, civil hopefully within the next several weeks. And then hopefully we can start to get things approved in, maybe a month optimistically, 2 months maybe more realistically.
Yeah. So
Does that all sound about right?
It's a matter of trying to work together, but as long as if you have any issues, Chris, as you're removing soil, it doesn't appear that the sloping is going to be good for some of the brush material, and it's a little too steep, you need to contact us. If you need to move the vegetation type so that we don't have erosion.
Right, so
we understand.
I was under the impression that we're not approving any soil disturbance, any further soil disturbance at this point. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, just making sure. So yeah, we will, in the interim, make sure that erosion controls are in place and do what we can to keep this thing as stable as possible until we finally get to the point of actual approvals.
Does that work, Richard?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And seem okay? All right. All right, I think it's a matter of now going forward that we can't have the gaps in communication anymore. And as long as we go forward like this, we'll be fine. And, your project will move right along through planning without being held up at either planning or conservation needlessly. So.
Right. Okay, well, that all sounds good. We've got a few little edits to make, and we've got some information that will be coming your way in the next week or so.
Yeah. And then, as soon as you get the soil and water results, please let us know.
Absolutely.
So if there's anything we need to address, Richard will let us know, and we'll have to go, if it's a peer review or whatever we need to do once we find out. We'll address that one.
That all sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. I think that sounds good, everyone?
Thank you. Great. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
And I'll continue to work with Caitlin and Rich offline if anything comes up as we're trying to suss things out and get plans in line. We'll be working offline to make sure that we're keeping up on things as time goes by between meetings.
As you know, Chris, any delays...
So we'll probably be shifting a little bit towards me for a little bit.
Right. I remember that discussion last month.
Okay.
Okay, so, well, I'll definitely CC to both of you, but...
Chris, if you could CC me on everything too, please.
Sure thing.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, are we good here for the evening?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so, Chris.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, folks, for your time.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, so next is, make sure we get this in order. Nice. Richard, you'd like to talk about Campbell Forest with the lions?
Sure. I will need to do a little communication with your chairs now in terms of with the Lions, in terms of what they've extent of the wood chips on the trails for now and the location, so we'll just have to, I need to get a little bit more detail so I can come back to you,
Okay,
or at least put a, some kind of memorandum or something, so kind of a
Okay.
summary of what we're talking about.
okay,
So I don't have a great deal of detail to share with you tonight, but
all right.
I'll be working on it. I'm gonna reach out to the Lions Club and move it along. I can't talk about Campbell Forest, which is, well, down an old new business. Is a companion to this, if you want to just take it out of order, why not, since we're on Campbell Forest, is that okay?
Sure. For me.
Sure.
Okay. So as you remember, at the May town meeting, CPC funded the design, engineering, and permitting for an expanded parking lot at Campbell Forest and trail improvements. I reached out to the engineer, Matt Shute from Beta Group, who'll be doing work on behalf of the town. Our next step is what you previously, I believe you saw the scope of the work. Hopefully you did. If you didn't, I'll get that over to you to take a look at, turn that scope into a contract, and then get them started. So in terms of the permitting aspect of it, which will be back before the commission, as well as going before the planning board. For the planning board will be the parking lot aspect of it. So we'll be getting started shortly. I would expect, probably September-ish in terms of starting the project, not being before you, but just starting overall with the objective to get everything in line to be able to have something that then goes back before the CPC to fund in the spring. That would be the kind of the big picture timeline in terms of what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody have any questions? So,
Could you repeat that? No, I'm just teasing.
There's always one in every crowd.
minutes from the June 11th meeting. Anyone have any questions, comments?
I already gave my comments.
All right, sure you did. No comments? All right, so if everyone, there's no issues, then I'll accept a motion to approve the June 11th, 2025 minutes.
So I make a motion to accept the minutes from June 11th, 2025.
Adam Zucker, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. We have a notice of utility maintenance activities from Eversource. That is just basically what they've done in the past.
Yep.
They utilize the chemicals. If they do a chemical treatment, that's authorized by the state. There's nothing else for us to really do. They're nice enough to let us know when they've been in here. They're pretty cognizant of the equipment they carry, where it goes. They have equipment on site that if there is like an oil spill or diesel hydraulic failure, they have equipment to...
Contamination, contain it.
Contamination kits on site. So, and if anybody has any comments or questions during their work, they go to Elaine. Elaine contacts Eversource, and Eversource has been very good about contacting back the customer and letting him know, Sometimes they don't like the fact, same with Keolis, cutting down railroad trees in the railroad, but that's what they have to do. they then see the train as opposed to having all the brush and they get upset. But it's for the safety of the power lines and to be able to get equipment in and out as they need, and that's what they're notifying us for. Leachate report is in. I don't know if you looked at it, Adam.
Yeah, I've got it right up here.
You can memorize. Okay. We already talked about our all right. If anybody has anything else, Caitlin, how you doing?
Good. Anything else on the Eversource?
No, just how are you doing?
Generalization.
General.
I'm doing good.
Okay.
Well, we do have-
being on Zoom tonight.
We're excited that, well, I guess she may not be, but we're still seeing her. So,
Thank you for coming, Caitlin.
somebody's arrival.
Yeah.
You do have two items on your agenda, though. One is the open space recreation plan.
Yep.
I thought you already covered
did want
that
to-
a little bit.
No. I'm covering it for you, so I didn't talk about it.
Oh, okay. Hey, go ahead.
All right. So quickly, so responses back from the RFP for the open space recreation plan update was June 25th. You have, there was three firm and
Proposals.
regional planning agency, MAPC, Beta Group, and Horsley and Witten submitted responses. So the next step is for you to go through the qualifications, and then we need to set up interviews to have them come in and present to the commission, and then work towards making a selection. In the RFP, there is the comparative, or I'm trying to think of the word now, but the criteria in terms of ranking them. Interviews will be part of the process, which I would suggest you probably just want to do a special meeting just for that. I don't know. I mean, I think unless you want to try to tackle it at a regular scheduled meeting, the way I would propose it is, I would tell each the respondents that this is the day, evening, and that we would just schedule them right one after the other.
So we'd have to do not an executive session, but just an extra session?
Yeah, it would be a special meeting. It would be a special commission it's an open session.
Okay.
Would we have to advertise it and everything?
No, you just have to post it under the open meeting law, so you could, you don't, if you're not sure when you might be available, I'm not expecting a date, I'm just letting you know. What I can do is I'll send an email, and then you can get back to me in terms of, we'll kind of work it towards a date, and then we can coordinate it.
It would be hard to do it over 3 months if we had one a month. Or would that too long a time frame?
You could. I guess my thought would be is the value of doing them consecutively. You know, it's kind of fresh in your mind, each one. There's only 3 of them, so it's not.
Yeah. Is it a 45-minute presentation or is it a 2-hour presentation?
No, it would be.
I mean, I know it's.
What I do. Yeah, I would probably allocate an hour just to be safe for planning wise, but it would be a short presentation in terms of they could present, but it needs to be something that they haven't said already in the RFP. We don't want to have it regurgitated, and then they would present, and then you'd have a Q&A with them. We could tighten it up to 45 minutes if you want. It doesn't have to be an hour.
Because
I think that's a great idea, having it all in one night. And then after the meeting, we could watch them all slug it out in the parking lot.
Sure.
Possibly.
So in terms of what I would say, my suggestion is my next step, I'll reach out with Elaine, we'll send you an email. And just in terms of, you can get back to me and Elaine separately, but we'll look at some dates and see what works. We can go from there.
Good.
Probably be easier to do it with them all at once. It'd be a little bit fresher than trying to remember 3 months.
Therefore, it would be a 45-minute for each one, approximate.
Yeah.
So it'd be a 3-hour meeting.
Roughly, yeah.
3 hour to
Yeah.
Weather storm.
What's that?
Consider doing it during the day. It doesn't necessarily have to be at night.
Yeah.
When you're,
So I have to find out a night that we have the room.
Or we could do it
And
at
a day.
David's house.
Do it by the pool.
There you go. I got my
Everyone in
shorts.
floaties.
Yeah.
I got my floaties.
I'm presuming this is an evening because your schedules, but I mean, it doesn't, there's no,
Well, let's throw some alternative times out there as well, because, there's a lot of flexibility too. So it may work out that we can get a quorum, at noon or something arbitrary.
well,
Maybe not
I
noon.
appreciate that myself too, but I was just kind of presuming it would be in the evening, but yeah, we could definitely do that, for sure. So we'll get back to you with some options, and we can whittle them down. Sound like a reasonable plan?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
And then, there is one on the anticipated business, I think I don't see it in the shared drive, but I thought I put it in there.
what's that?
The bill for Kundy Forest for,
Yep, it's
Oh,
here.
yeah.
It's here. The spraying.
okay, I didn't see that, I was looking and I didn't see it, but.
Is David trying to
I
zoom
just put
in?
it up.
You're trying to-
Oh,
So I want to give you a quick update. So there has been discussions, I know you've had discussions about, I'll call it a reboot revitalization for Kundy Forest. But for right now, it's just spraying, and I'm grateful Caitlin's still here. She can kind of talk about a little bit more in terms of, she's had conversations with our facilities director about this. The Kundy Forest or Kundy Foundation is money that the town has held that is invested, which is under your auspices in terms of using that fund to pay for, it can be used on maintenance and other improvements with the Kundy Forest. So that's why I put the bill on your agenda, on unanticipated business.
Do we need to pay the bill or approve it?
Yeah, you need to approve it and pay the bill. Cut to the chase, right? Yeah. Now, in terms of the second part of or the beginning part, or whatever it was, like the revitalization, that's going to be more work. We'll come back to you on that. We don't have that's just a future thing, but I just want to let you know, so.
Yep. Do you need a motion?
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Regarding the 54,
Donna,
Sure, we can pay the bill.
never mind. Yeah. You got it?
Donna Jones, North Street. Regarding Kundy Forest, what was the purpose of these spraying?
So
You got it, Caitlin.
So the spraying is for poison ivy removal in the playground area. So looking at the language of the open space there's something that directly prohibits spraying of herbicide. And as far as removing vegetation, controlling of nuisance vegetation is allowable, especially in an area like a playground. You wouldn't expect to encounter poison ivy there. So it's an allowable use of the open space land there. And falls under the category of maintenance for this property.
Were you okay with that second line item being Roundup? Toxic chemicals.
Unfortunately, not a ton of commercial options for herbicides out there. Personally, I don't love any sort of chemical like Roundup, but the pro versus con here, where there's a real need to control the nuisance poison ivy on the playground, is kind of outweighs the potential short-term impacts from using something like Roundup.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can we plant some bittersweet there once we get rid of the poison ivy? Sorry, it's late. Past my bedtime.
I believe that, yeah. I don't think MDR would be very appreciative of that.
Grows like crazy.
All right. So looking for a motion to pay the Site 1 landscaping supply bill of $139.61.
Adam Zucker, so moved.
Paul Khalil, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It passes. We pay the bill.
Thank you very much.
Stay out of collections again.
All right. Anything else for us, Richard?
No, just think about July 15th. It's going to be a special day.
No, it's not.
Apparently you're in the pool.
I don't want to tell Caitlin what my date is. She would die.
Don't tell, we're not telling her what, yes.
Don't tell me.
Whatever day is going to be a special day, so.
There you go.
Oh, the baby.
She might be a Leo, that's all.
Okay. Leos are pretty too.
All right. All right. Did anybody have anything else? No? All right, then. I accept a motion to close the July 9th, 2025 meeting.
Peter Urbana, so moved.
Second?
Paul Khalil, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is closed.
All right, thank you, everyone.